What is up, YouTube? I told you I would do a review on Elastos, so that is what we're jumping in today. Very cool project, very complex project, large scope, but I think you're gonna like it. Stay tuned, that is coming up right now. What is going on, guys? Rodney here with Crypto Bros. Welcome to today's video. As I said, we are talking about Elastos. This is kind of like a follow-up video to the 8 alts you need on your radar for September 2018. Elastos was one of my picks in this video. You guys obviously wanted to see a deep dive in there, so that is what we're doing today. I will say when I initially jumped into this project, it was fairly intimidating just because of the scope that Elastos brings, everything that they are trying to accomplish, but once you get going, not so bad. Pretty straightforward. What I've done is I've kind of collected all the information, picked out what I thought were the most important parts. I do not go super in depth on like the team and all that stuff. We do look at some partnerships. We won't be looking at price points today very in depth. If you want to see that, go back to this video right here. I'll post in the card above my head so you can find it. But all that being said, I threw together some slides. I actually deleted quite a bit of the content out of there just for the time's sake, but we will jump into those right now. Let's get this thing going. Just real quick before we jump into this, if I messed anything up or misworded something or said it wrong, feel free to correct me. What I'll do is I'll post all the links and articles and all the stuff that I pulled the content from different sources, and I'll post those links down below just so you guys can check them out as well. So always remember that. And then number 2, everything will be time-stamped here, so feel free to jump around and check out what you want to. Anyway, guys, let's jump into the first slide. So what is Elastos? Elastos is a 3rd generation blockchain powered internet in which you have complete control over your digital assets. Think like books, movies, games, personal data, more. I get that's very high level. We'll be jumping into this pretty deep, but the goal here is to be the internet of the future, solving many of today's internet problems, cybercrimes, hacking, data hoarding, etc. Essentially, they are creating the world's first open source internet operating system powered by blockchain in a fully decentralized peer-to-peer internet. So that's actually a pretty vanilla description of Elastos. There's a couple things we have to understand to kind of grasp the scope of Elastos. The first one being that they are building a smart web, a truly decentralized peer-to-peer style of internet. But within that in itself, we have to understand the 4 pillars of Elastos. So the first pillar itself is the blockchain. And in building their smart web, each individual person, device, website, or digital asset will have its own unique identity to participate on the actual blockchain. The connection will not be granted until your ID is verified. This builds trustworthy transactions as there is only one ID per digital asset. The purpose here is to make digital assets itself scarce, tradable, and identifiable. Once we actually jump onto the blockchain, they're going to have a main chain as well as side chains. The main chain is for very basic transactions, think like, payment transfers, as well as for connecting the ID system to the Elastos webs and store some of the most critical data from the side chains. The side chains will actually have a magnitude of different use cases. Since there is side chains, this obviously speeds transaction times of the main chain as it is not weighted down. This will also be used to execute dApps smart contracts. Every dApp on Elastos will have its own side chain. So pillar 2 is where things get really, really interesting. It's almost even hard to conceptualize. Pillar 2 is called Run Time. Now this is the operating system and virtual machine that will run the smart web and support the execution of applications created on the platform. Think of this as a full web of decentralized applications. So instead of going to like a particular website like a weather.com, you would actually enter through the Elastos app, which acts as like a gateway to this full web of Elastos dApps. Once you're through the gateway, then you would click your weather dApp and be able to check out whatever it is that you want to check out. The interesting thing here is Elastos shields you from accessing the internet when running dApps. Instead, all the dApps actually run on the Elastos smart web through runtime. They only interact with Elastos runtime and not the internet. Again, crazy to conceptualize. This is actually a safety feature that is built into runtime, protects you from malware, viruses, digital attacks, stuff that can steal your data, stuff like that. Really interesting concept. The smart web will be interoperable with all other blockchains as well as current operating systems that we use today, like Windows, Android, probably should say that right, iOS, Linux, etc. So really crazy concept here. I would say of all the things that I researched, I found the kind of runtime piece more interesting than anybody else because they're literally kind of disbanding, internet connection. We'll actually even see that when we look at their TV box. So if I've lost you up until this point in time, I think this is where we can really just kind of tie everything together with the Elastos Carrier. That is the pillar 3. If you're like, where does this new internet come from? It's coming from right here. Pillar 3, the Elastos Carrier, which is a decentralized peer-to-peer model for hosting the new internet. Just like the internet today, you have to actually pay someone to have access to it, whether that's Comcast or Xfinity or whatever else. You have to pay somebody for that. This would be a decentralized internet, meaning you would be renting and using computational power provided by somebody else, right? You could be renting it from me. So just like any of the other decentralized projects we've looked at, think like Theta Token, new kind of network, you're renting out computational power from your unused devices. And in doing that, you would be a user on the Elastos network and considered a node for renting out extra computational power. And because you're renting it out, you get rewarded in ELA tokens. This is kind of what builds that tokenized economy. And because this is all decentralized, you are protected from man-in-the-middle attacks as well as DDoS attacks. And the cherry on top of all that is the smart web is encrypted. Again, I think this project just keeps getting cooler and cooler. And the very last pillar of Elastos is the Elastos SDK, the software development kit. And I get it from like a viewer standpoint, the SDK is never a sexy thing, but it is often one of the most important is because this is what breeds future adoption. These projects, whether it's Elastos or any other blockchain project out there, not even blockchain, they need people to build on top of their actual operating system. So, even think about like your Android or your iPhone, like they have an SDK so people can build that goofy game that you want to play on your iPhone when you're taking a crap at work. So anyway, that was so crude. With the Elastos SDK, they are designed so developers can build and integrate dApps within runtime. They've also made the SDK so applications can receive their ID and access the smart web without actually having to use the Elastos virtual machine. So they really thought this through in terms of being able to build out their ecosystem. We'll actually check this out towards the end of the video, but that really wraps up the pillars. Moving on, we're going to touch on a couple more things and we'll kind of close this thing down. So this little piece right here is actually a really interesting and intricate part of the Elastos project. So they've actually merged mining with Bitcoin. You might be wondering why that is. Well, one, the Bitcoin network is actually one of the most secure blockchains of all time. So obviously they're taking advantage of that. But also from like a miner standpoint, there's reduced energy consumption. And again, you can apply the network security to all applications in the Elastos ecosystem. Both Bitcoin and Elastos blockchains reach consensus at the same time. And with Bitcoin acting as the parent chain to Elastos, miners can now submit proof of work to both chains without having to use any computational power. Why is this a big deal? Well, as more miners switch to merge mining between Bitcoin and Elastos, this allows hashing power on Elastos network, making it less susceptible to the 51% attack. And that's actually one of the things I really admire about the Elastos blockchain is the fact that they have all these different security pieces built right into the backbone. Moving on to the Elastos box, I'm actually going to skip over this slide just because we're going to look at it in just a second. But onto the team and the advisors. So the founder is Rong Chen. He was a senior software engineer at Microsoft for over 10 years with a background obviously in computer science. If we were to look at the Elastos website, we would see they kind of date the timeline back all the way to the year 2000. Now, at that time, he was still working for Microsoft. He left, went back to China, and this is kind of what started the Elastos dream here. He kind of had this vision where not everything needed to be routed through the internet. Fast forward 18 years later, here we are with Elastos. Co-founder Feng Han, an academic backing in applied physics and currently holds a position as the Associate Dean of the Massachusetts Blockchain Research Institute. He's also a blockchain advisor for Huawei. The team itself is 50 plus deep, 60 if we include the advisors. In that, there are 2 senior technical managers, 26 engineers, 19 more team members. When talking about the advisors specifically, the 2 most notable are the CEO of Bitmain and obviously the CEO of Neo. The 3, including Elastos, kind of formed this partnership called the G3, and this partnership is between obviously Bitmain, Neo, and Elastos, and this is to share experiences, information, resources to help build out their blockchain ecosystem, as well as grab a bigger piece of the blockchain pie, aka more market share. This is a mutually beneficial partnership for the fact that Bitmain will contribute hashing power to the Elastos network. Neo brings the experience and expertise in dealing with consensus, and Elastos chips in with its new and disrupted operating system. Speaking of partnerships, here's a couple that I thought were worth noting. For one, they will be working with Ontology and Neo. This will be to help set KYC standards as well as digital asset identity protocols. They're bringing on a project to be an application within their ecosystem called WeatherBlock. WeatherBlock is a blockchain-based startup that is creating peer-to-peer exchange of weather data. They do have partnerships kind of in that gaming field with Bit.game, Hashworld, and Reactor. They've also just joined Meta Union Alliance, and this is kind of a collaboration that includes Matrix.ai, TrustNote, 8chain, and Aurora. The whole goal here is just to kind of combine R&D, bring blockchain to the masses, share what they know, build better projects. And then last but not least, there are a couple speculative plays, and it's with Alibaba and Huawei. Essentially, they've just had some office visits. It's been nothing solid by any means. We have seen, obviously, a tie-in with Huawei, considering their co-founder is on the board. But other than that, that is just pure speculation. I don't want to get super in-depth in price points tonight, as I just covered that in another video, but if we look at where Elastos is, currently trading $7.54, market cap under $60 million. Thing to remember here, guys, is the fact that Elastos at one point in time was valued at $91.56, which means it's retraced 86% from its all-time high. If you look at like the token economics, again, remember, it's only 33 million tokens, so it does have a fairly low supply, especially in correlation to some of these other blockchain projects that are out there. So the last two things we're talking about tonight are the Elastos TV Box and the CR100. If you haven't checked out this box yet, it looks very similar to Apple TV, but it will be actually utilizing the Elastos Carrier, which we saw as that peer-to-peer decentralized network. Anyway, I'll quickly buzz through this article and we'll move on. The TV Box was co-produced by Elastos and its ecosystem strategic collaboration partner, Shanghai Jisoo TV. They offer the world's leading HTML5 and browser technology in OTT and smart TV field. They also have partnerships with several leading TV manufacturers like Samsung and LG. These guys will also promote and market the Elastos Carrier as a new service that will accompany its large-scale production of TV boxes that are already in existence. With the help of Elastos Carrier, the box will build a P2P, so a peer-to-peer connection between TV boxes and mobile phones that will allow customers direct connection between devices and customer support. Using Elastos Carrier to directly connect to other devices without utilizing central servers not only saves operation costs from the manufacturer, but more importantly protects the user's privacy. The TV box is already being sold without the carrier function. Now with Elastos Carrier added, it has projected sales for the next 5 months of 180K, 200K, 250K, 250K, 250K units, essentially saying that by the end of the year, they will have literally over 1 million Elastos Carrier nodes sold. That is sick. Last but not least is the Cyber Republic 100, also known as the CR100. Now, this is going to be Elastos' version of like their accelerator program to build out their ecosystem. Them, much like Icon, much like Zilliqa, much like OneChain, are giving money away to have developers and teams and entrepreneurs build specifically on top of their blockchain, kind of building out their ecosystem. And I'll read this little part here. We can check it out. But it says, CR100 is our flagship project, inviting teams of entrepreneurs to apply for funding to design and build the next great Elastos ecosystem dApp. The 100 projects listed are templates to exemplify the diversity and abilities of the Elastos infrastructure. And you guys can check this out, but what's really cool here is the fact that they have templates already laid out. So if you're some type of developer or team or whatever, you can come in here and apply to build one of these templates that they already have. They already have built out. They have currency, exchanges, finance, all these different things that you can check out and come build and grow their ecosystem. Again, I think this is a very strong play by any top blockchain project, so I'm very happy that Elastos is following suit here. Really, guys, that is what I have for Elastos. I think we can obviously see the value that this project brings not only to the blockchain space, but what they're doing on such a large scope. A lot of moving pieces, and I really do believe that there's a lot of potential for this specific project in 2018 and beyond. I haven't invested yet, but I certainly will be doing so. Everything I have said here is my own personal opinion. Nothing is financial advice. I hope you found some value in this video. If I messed anything up, by all means, please let me know. Quite complex project. Tried to lay it out in like a clear and concise way without making the video 20 minutes long. But anyway, I appreciate you guys tuning in. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, by all means, I would love to have you as a subscriber. I appreciate you guys. There should also be a beer can in the top left-hand corner. If you click that, that will subscribe you to the channel. As always, everything is timestamped below. Have a great night, and I will check you later.